All right, thank you very much, Simone. Apologies for the delay of all the panels. We're supposed to end the session half an hour ago, so let's be efficient here. My name is Wesley. I am a professor of strategy at INSEAD, so I'm a colleague of Mike's. And my research basically centers on digitization and platforms. And I've worked with major platforms like Alibaba, JD, Google, PayPal, and Stack Overflow in the past. So it's very nice. I'm very happy to add Hire as another company, platform company I can be working with. So the theme of the session is scaling, right? So we're asking, in the process of scaling from a micro enterprise to a slightly bigger enterprise, you face a lot of issues regarding bureaucracy, hierarchy, and with all the employees and managers you are adding to the company. And today, we're very fortunate to have two speakers in the house. The first speaker is Mr. Wong Foo Wong, who is a vice president of Hire Biomedical, right? His company, I'll let him introduce himself for 2 minutes later, but his company basically makes these very advanced refrigerators for medical supplies, biosamples, vaccines, and also has a whole range of IoT cloud solutions for those services. And the second speaker we have today is Tom Vanderlupe. He is the co-founder of VC, which is a mortgage advisory company in Holland. It's sort of like Better Mortgage in the US. And again, I'll let Tom introduce himself and his company as well. Okay, so here is how the panel is going to be structured. Each speaker will get 2 minutes to introduce himself and his company. And I'll pose a couple questions which the speakers can then answer. And toward the end, we will have an interactive section where Tom can ask questions, can pose questions to Hire. And toward the end, I will conclude with a 1-minute remark. Okay. So without further ado, I will hand the floor over to Mr. Wong Foo Wong from Hire Biomedical.
大家好，我是海尔生物。
Hello everyone, I'm Wong Foo from Hire Biomedical. As Mr. Liu just mentioned, we are a new enterprise focused on providing healthcare solutions. We started as a refrigerator maker, but now we provide services, including blood services, biomedical storage services. We are creating an IoT end-to-end services. So last year, we achieved IPO, and we are part of the Tech 50 board composite. And we were able to achieve fast growth during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our P2E ratio has actually reached 140 times. The reason we are able to achieve fast growth is really to change our mindset from product centricity to providing a whole set of services, from logistics to product to solutions. And we are working with many different stakeholders, such as hospitals and pharmaceutical companies, and creating an open and co-creating and sharing ecosystem. And we've been able to achieve these through by adopting the 人单合一 model. So that's a brief introduction. Thank you.
So next up, we have Tom Vanderlupe from VC.
Yeah, because of the time, I will just, I won't tell that much. We're in the Netherlands, we do mortgage advice, small company. And let's say the main thing is that we just want to think in advance about what we do by saying, okay, does it still work when the company is 100 times bigger? So that's it, just for a very short introduction, because we're just probably running out of time.
Thank you for a very efficient introduction. So let's kick it off with the first question of the panel, which is, as a self-organizing micro-enterprise scales and hires more employees and managers, its organizational structure oftentimes becomes more bureaucratic. So how do these microenterprises avoid excessive bureaucracy during scaling? So I would like to invite maybe Mr. Wong to answer first. You have 5 minutes to elaborate, and then Tom can also answer.
好，谢谢。那个，我放一下我的 PPT，共享我桌面。
Thank you. Let me share my screen now. I think as we scale, we are scaling in a way that's not just by hiring more people, but involving more stakeholders in our ecosystem. And that's what helps us keep our dynamic spirit. During the COVID-19 period, we have a micro enterprise entrepreneur who wanted to create new solutions to help fight COVID-19. So this gentleman named He Shenyang helped us understand this need and created new logistic solutions and actually mobilized a lot of logistic resources during the Chinese New Year period.
As we know, the Chinese New Year holidays last from the New Year Eve to the 6th day of the Chinese New Year. During these holidays, all the EMC have been working around clock to provide the services in response to the pandemic. In fact, they developed some new business for this pandemic demands. In fact, it start from the 3rd day of the Chinese New Year, and they quickly made available to the relevant services and products. The solution. Also, they have developed some new biosafety solution, including the cultivation of CO2 and high pressure mask, as well as the virus sample transportation and the collection and other services. Therefore, they have created a new market of the relevant biosafety business. In fact, the whole market was expanded by 10 times from 2 billion to 20 billion. And all those new business or services were created by the EMC on their own because everything was driven by the demand of the users. In fact, a gentleman called Feng Guoqing identified the need because they found many customers needed the capability of the lab where they can detect the virus. But many customers didn't know how to do it. Therefore, this gentleman provided our customers with a total solution covering all different links of the process, including the lab design, the manufacturing, construction, and the relevant scientific capabilities capacity building. Therefore, this EMC created a self-organized PCR testing EMC. So in delivering that EMC, they ran into a major difficulty, whereby the products we created itself were not sufficient to cover all the scenarios of the P3 lab testing. Therefore, another maker or entrepreneur called Wang Tao provided another proposal of involving other third-party stakeholders into our EMC. Therefore, our EMC is boundaryless through the EMC contract as well as the PCR lab testing. Each link, each stakeholder, each node were able to revolve around the needs of the users to create value and deliver value. So if you look at the case, after Feng Guoqi identified this need of PCR testing, and then he created this new EMC, which further evolved into a different EMC. So everything, all the process has been spontaneous. All these decisions were made in response to the needs of the users without the necessity of seeking approval from their superiors. Therefore, all these traditional barriers of bureaucratic process or red tapes didn't happen. Okay, So that's my answer to the question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong, for a very insightful answer and also very detailed examples about how these products like the new PCR test kits were invented and then put into manufacturing through layers of employee self-initiatives. So that's very, very interesting. So I would like to hand the floor back to Mr. Tom Vanderlupe to talk about your answer to this question at VC.
If you, I would like to share just one slide.
Of course, please.
Because it's a little bit easier. Do you see the slides?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll just do it very briefly because of the time. As Mr. Gorsh said, it's about people. So let's say from the European context, it's always about people. It's about humanity. So it starts with the purpose. It starts with trying to change something. For us, it's to change the financial industry, or also the way of working. We also listen to corporate rebels, and it always starts with our people first. It's before the clients, and then shareholders come last. So that's our hierarchy of stakeholders. Then to answer your question, how do you manage or how do you deal with scaling up? As I said before, what we try to do is to, I mean, we're still a very small company, but we always ask ourselves, does it work when we are 100 times bigger? So we call this the times 100 question. And then I just listed all the bullet points we try to use or to get our inspiration, and then probably because these are all specialists listening to me and know where it is about. So it's about radical transparency, about trust, about decentralized decision making. We talked about sociocracy or holacracy. What can we learn from complex systems like nature or city or states? We are in favor of rotation of leadership. So it's not about a strong leader, but it's about rotation. Primus inter pares. It's more, we get inspiration there from history. Athens or the Roman Senate or the merchant cities, or actually the Swiss government is ruled like that. So it's a rotation principle. It's not the strong president. We have only one rule, so no handbooks. It's called the golden rule. The performance is not linked to salaries. So it's horizontal, peer-to-peer feedback, psychological safety. Salaries are fixed. So that's perhaps very strange, but it's more or less the old governmental civil servant idea, but it's also, you also see it in Buurtzorg, another Dutch company. And we don't have no functions, no titles, so roles. It's based on strengths, it's team-based, and we try to think about checks and balances because we want to be a kind of eternal company. So that's a very, very short answer to a very complex and difficult question. And then just pass over to you again.
Thank you very much, Tom. So just want to quickly comment that the 100 times question you just proposed is very insightful, and also the vision of VC to become the eternal company actually kind of resonates with my experience with working with Alibaba. Where Jack Ma is basically saying that, oh, we gotta be a century-long company. So let's think about this. We were founded in 1999. We gotta be in the 22nd century. So we gotta be at least 102 years old. So a lot of these key strategic decisions from the top were made in light of that vision. So thank you very much for sharing. I think the second question, Mr. Wong already started answering already. So the second question has to do with innovation, right? Innovation is a very important topic, and it's being discussed extensively today. But my question is, as micro enterprises scales, how does it continue to innovate and generate new lines of businesses? So maybe I'll hand the floor to Mr. Wong Foo, and for him to continue providing maybe more examples of how specifically Higher Biomedical was able to innovate and generate these new important lines of businesses during scaling. Thank you.
我这还有一个幻灯片。
I have another slide I'm about to share with you. Just like what I said just now, for the PCR scenario, EMC, after they completed the PCR lab new scenario, they generate great success, but they keep going, which means they again revolve around the needs of users, keep interacting with the users to identify new needs from the users. Again, during the pandemic control of the past 1 year, many different locations in China built their PCR testing lab, but the existing facilities were not sufficient to meet the needs of this pandemic testing. Therefore, a stakeholder suggests to us that we should be able to provide a mobile lab. The reason why this entity is willing to work with us is that we are an open ecosystem, so that we can co-create with another organization to do that. In fact, that project generated 1.5 billion revenue, as well as 300 million ecosystem revenue. Also, we work with the Shandong Disease Prevention Control Center. We learned that the virus has brought a lot of challenges to the existing biolabs. For example, the negative pressure status, as well as the sterilization capabilities of the labs are not good enough to monitor potential infection from the coronavirus. So that represents a great hazard. Therefore, this EMC, within EMC, we have another maker called Huang Tao, who also bid for the project, create a new EMC by upgrading different software and hardware. They create a smart lab user case, so that they have been developing this online monitoring of biosafety labs. Also, they create this cloud simulation network, so that it can keep monitoring the biosafety status of those different labs. Okay, so the reason why we can keep innovating is because each link of our EMC has zero distance from the users. Also, there's zero distance between different link or nodes. If each one particular node or link had adverse impact on the performance of the EMC, then other nodes or links will point out the flaws of that particular individual or node. And there's a kind of mechanism built in to solve the problem, to accomplish the zero delay. Also, it has a 1+N system, which means that everyone within the EMC is a value creation center. Each maker, after interaction with the users, if he or she can identify this new needs, then this platform can support this individual with all resources to help him to meet that need. And he or she can actually evolve into a separate independent EMC if the business gets bigger. So starting from a fixed solution for PCR, we have developed a mobile solution, and then we have the cloud-based monitoring solution. So in that process, our bird eye lab solution, so if you look at this process, the EMC can offer solution to problems every day, and then in the process they can drive and create additional values for the users. Only when EMC can create a higher value for the customers can each node of the links of the EMC get a higher cut of the revenue. And they're all driven by the Rendenheyi scorecard, as well as the win-win value-added statement. These are two drivers, so that they keep innovating and expand into new line of business. That's my answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong. So you talked about the chains, and also the chains at zero distance from each other, and how that enabled innovation, especially during this PCR testing new product you developed. So that's a very good example again. I would like to hand the floor back to Tom, maybe for you to talk about how you keep on innovating at VC and some of the new products. Thank you.
Yeah, we have our experience is that you have too many good ideas. So it's much more about concentrating or focusing on what you're doing. And for instance, the mortgage advice market is huge. It's 100 billion per year in the Netherlands, and we're still very small. So it's more about having a lot of ideas and still be very disciplined. But for instance, we just started also by doing real estate advice. We did our first test. So our concept is more of psychological safety. So that people are willing to share or try to do stuff, and it has no consequence for any, let's say, performance or other issues. So that's our experience.
Could you maybe provide some more detail, Tom, into this particular new product, this particular new real estate product you're talking about, as well as maybe the process of creating that product as your enterprise grows?
Now, if you take, let's say, the theory of ecosystems, then the question is, what problem are you solving? And everybody who is doing mortgage advice is solving a later part, let's say, in the chain or in the customer journey. So, for instance, in the Netherlands, but in a lot of countries, the problem is not that it's difficult to get a mortgage. No, the problem is that there are not enough apartments or there are not enough houses. So, from the point of the customer, it makes sense to build an ecosystem and trying to solve the problem of housing, so to say. So that doesn't mean that in the long run we will be building houses ourselves or becoming a construction company, but at least it means that, let's say, being a mortgage advice company is not a solution for the problem of the customer.
I see, Tom. So I remember we chatted before. Your company at first was a few people, right? So start off with a few people, and now you're at 48 or 46. So maybe from the beginning, the very beginning of a company, you're trying to come up with new products, and right now you also have your innovative initiatives. Can you talk about the differences between the two?
Yeah, perhaps we are a little bit different. So we still own all our shares. We don't have external investors. We know private equity very well, but let's say, especially in the beginning, we're very much focused on our culture. So all the people who work at our company were educated in our company ourselves. We don't have external, let's say, advisors and this kind of stuff. So we all the people who advise never have been, for instance, mortgage advisors at banks. So we say, okay, let's really build, let's say, the first 50 or 100 people ourselves. And then if we would, let's say, go from 100 to 1,000 people, everybody who will enter this company will be told by our existing people what the culture is at Visi. And that's something which we think is very, very important. And we are doing a lot of experiments. So, for instance, this primus inter pares example is something where we know at the moment is not so important, because if you're 50 people, everybody knows each other. But if you get more decentralized structures, it's much more comparable with big law firms or McKinsey, etc., where you always have this kind of homegrown culture, and never somebody who is at the top of those, let's say, structures is somebody who just was hired from another company. That we need an external CEO. So, and we try to keep everybody in the company. So for us, it's very important that we don't lose anybody. And in our salary model, everybody is important as anybody else. So this whole performance issue, which is a different mental box, we say there is no connection between performance and salaries. Salaries we pay more every year because we feel blessed that people are still willing to come and work together with us. And performance issues are solved on a horizontal basis in teams, which we, let's say, from Western science, also know that peer pressure works much more efficiently than vertical top-down pressure.
Thank you for sharing, Tom. One thing I just want to quickly point out is there's this interesting difference in your salary or like incentive structure versus hire, where it seems like a lot of these managers are basically rely on self-initiative to get performance incentives. And here you're saying like there's very little connection between one's performance and salary, and the pressure is more horizontal. So thank you for sharing. So at this stage, I think it's time for us to interact a little bit. By interaction, I'm talking about maybe the two of you, the two speakers, can pose questions to each other. So I'll give the floor to the two of you. But Tom, do you have any questions for Mr. Wong?
Yeah, I'm in general very curious where things don't work. So, I mean, sharing our success stories, that's always nice. But the real learnings, to my point of view, often are where do things go wrong, and where did you solve them afterwards? But let's say we are such a small company that is more from a position of asking, okay, if a company is huge, what lessons can we learn from that? So that's why we also very interested in this kind of combination of micro enterprises.
我们这个，你看我们的核心啊，这个人单合
I
一，
think our core or the core Erdnachli model is composed by EMC contracts, and there's a precondition for this. We created EMC contract from opportunities in the market. We have a platform behind that, which is 1+N. There will be a lot of MEs to support the system to make sure every opportunity can make itself a success. Everybody can discover, can find out an opportunity, then to create their own startup on the platform of Hire. Actually, Hire is the platform of entrepreneurship. Behind everybody, there is a system of 1+N. There will be lots of teams, shared services to ensure every entrepreneur can create high value, then can get high profit sharing. Thank you.
本身这链群本身我们是
So, and I think our EMC has special system to correct every error it makes. We have lots of people to compose to form an EMC, so it's difficult for an EMC to make difficult. When you make it difficult, you will be self-corrected in a timely manner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong, for sharing that answer. So I think we are running out of time, but I do have a couple of things to conclude with. One thing is that an open question we haven't really addressed, but it's a question for future research and future discussion, is the concept of standardization, right? So standardization is really about a question of what to standardize and what to let these subunits decide upon. So as a company expands internationally to different countries or to different regions, it may enforce a set of rules or common practices across those branches, but at the same time, you do want to give the freedom to these branches to innovate and go freely at will. So the decision here is very critical. And from the perspective of Hire and the Hire platform, I think it's something interesting to talk about as well. So I'd just like to quickly introduce a book written by two of my professors at Stanford, a book called Scaling Up Excellence. I'll type it in the chat. The two professors are by the names of Huggy Rao and Bob Sutton. And this book is really about how organizations keep true to value while allowing its branches and subunits to innovate over time. So it includes rich examples from IDEO, Pixar, and also religious examples, including a comparison between Catholicism and Buddhism as the two religions spread over time. So it's a very interesting book, highly recommended. So just to conclude this panel, I would like to thank both speakers for presenting and for going back and forth with questions and answers, especially to Mr. Wong, because it's already past 1 a.m. In China. And thank you for staying up, and thank you for being with us. And thank you again to all the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wesley, Tom, Mr. Wang, thanks very much. That was a very exciting and very
谢谢吴教授。
Thank you, Professor Wu.
So I would like to leave the floor quickly to Dr. Ghosh, because I think I want to piggyback again on your reflections in preparing, just a 5 minutes closing remark for the salon.
Thank you, Simone. Thanks to all the speakers. Obviously, as I mentioned right from the get-go, I'm a very good student, and I hope I picked up a few things. But something I want to underscore, I mean, what I'm learning, that human centricity, which is how to value every human being. And at the core, as you know, humans have multiple instincts. Some people are more entrepreneurial, some people are more research oriented, some people like to follow, some people like to lead. And I think the success of this model, if I have to use the word Renda and High 2.0, would depend upon how we can go beyond contracts. Because contracts, by definition, sometimes could be suffocating. And what we are talking about, what I particularly liked when we heard about the model in Holland, and then when I heard about the boundaryless concept, is that how to create an open system where multiple instincts, multiple traits could coexist, and we, in the process, create an ecosystem of innovation. But if everyone follows the same model, maybe it could be limiting. So we have to think of an expanded concept. And again, it's the next step. And that's where I leave for Simone.
Right. I think you are spot on as always, because I think the question we are debating now, it's this, continuous, I would say, moving from the rules and the technology and the contracts, and the need to reinvent a completely new human development thesis. And I think what we are trying to do with this conference and with this work we are doing is to keep this conversation based on both the practice, but not just being obsessed on the practice, also to be reflecting. And I think Jiang Rumin, it's a great guide in this for us, that I think if we really make our organizations reflective enough so that all the employees can maybe learn about what Thales or what Peter Drucker thought about work, I think we are doing a great, I would say, service to the heritage of CEO Mr. Zhang. Then I would like also to add a couple of more things. One thing, I believe that we are talking about practice, and therefore I think we should really be committed in making our knowledge shared and open. So to build on each other's work instead of building conflicting frameworks. And on the other hand, I think we need to do more to have more girls in the conversation, because I think I felt I wanted to have more female, feminine, I would say, take on the conversation that we're having. And again, the Taoism that most of the times we connect Hayek's organizational structure with, it's based on embracing both the masculine and the feminine. So I think that's really another very important point I want to make. And then I want to make a last one, which is before adjourning to tomorrow, I want to thank Hayek's team, because I've been working with Hayek for 2 years now, and there are especially some very great, exceptional girls that are running this machine of the webinars of the Cultural Institute and so on. So thanks everybody. I think it was an amazing day, and I would like to adjourn you and see you tomorrow, same time as today. Thanks for the panelists of my salon. I think you coped with my micro time management. So then thanks very much. And again, see you tomorrow, same time. And I leave it to the hosts to put some music for the closure.